What's up, y'all? Happy Friday and welcome to Daytime Talk After Dark. I am your host, Al Jackson, but that is not important. What is important is I'm joined by two of my favorite ladies. Tori Shulman got the laptop. And a very weird, you seem like a woman that's like on a plane and you didn't know the seat next to you was going to be empty and now you don't know how to handle that space.
Yeah, like the two seats next to her. She just, I mean, what's happening here?
I don't know, but she's
balancing
this on her thigh. And
I'll tell you right now. One is I got my mom's purse and I'm so proud to have it. I don't want to put it on the ground, so I don't know what to do with it. Then I have this. Then this is kind of blocking a little bit of my pooch.
Okay.
So
that's what happens when you ask questions, Erica. By the way, it happens very rarely now, but when I get two seats empty in coach, I call it hood first class.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Because you can lay down.
That's the best, isn't it? And when you see someone and then the very last person comes and sits down, you're like, damn it.
Yes. But then do you say anything, Erica, when you have hood first class and then somebody that poorly picked their seat and is in a row with three people goes, I want to be it not encumbered, so they come and mess up your hood first class.
Yeah, no, you don't say anything.
You can't.
You kind of put your head down. You kind of do the, the wide stance.
Yeah.
Where you're just a little like,
Yep.
But they see that. If somebody's sitting in a tight row, if you're in the middle seat and you look and you go, there's a guy back there that's got a middle and a window open, you're going to go back there. But then like, how do I ice grill them enough to be like, no, bro?
I just avoid all contact and get small. So I do the opposite. I get real small. Nothing's happening here. Don't come over.
All right. Well, lots of things are happening, Erica. Let's start off with something like a fun little cultural note. New Yorkers are lining up to smell a rare plant that is out for the public to take a whiff. It's referred to, the modern parlance is the corpse plant, because the corpse plant smells like rotting flesh. It is a rare plant and people are lining up to smell it. So with that said, would the curiosity be enough for Erica to line up and smell it?
No. Hard no.
Really?
First of all, I was a team manager, a statistician for my high school football team. And I was privy to going into the locker room after the guys left while they were like on the field. So I know what that smell already smells like. I don't need to wait in line to smell it.
The curiosity.
It would not.
I feel like it would get this one.
I would be interested. Of
course you would.
Yeah, I would. I'd be interested. And then I think on DBL, I had to go and smell like one of these rotting dead corpse flowers, and they only bloom like once every like a decade. And I remember being like underwhelmed. So you're looking at like a dead flower and then you're sad.
Well, this is strange, but I will say this strangely. I was talking to my homeboy Donnie earlier today. Shout out Donnie. He called me. We had a real like man conversation.
Okay.
I wrote a letter of recommendation for him, and it was very personal, and he got a hold of it, and he called me, and he thanked me, and I was like, I didn't know whether I wanted to send it to him because there's that thing, people don't get their flowers when they're here, but I'm glad he found it, but I don't know whether I wish I would have sent it to him and been like, this is how I feel, I love you, But anyway, we were having that man conversation, then it kind of split off into a conversation about smells.
Oh.
And here's where I'm going with this.
Okay. Please steer us there.
I'm in the wind right now.
We talked about smells and how they can instantly like a time machine take you to a certain time and place. And I was saying I can tell there's a specific smell that my grandmother's boudoir had, with
did
just
you spend a lot of time with your grandmother's boudoir?
No, but if I did, that would be fine.
Totally.
But just there, I don't, you're a little kid and like you would go in certain rooms in Big Mama's house and there would be smells.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, can corporate America figure out what your smell is and then slowly put it in places where you don't even notice it, but you're like, I feel comfortable in this bookstore because they made it smell like your mom's car or
Well,
something.
they already do.
Yeah, I was gonna say they do that.
I mean, everybody knows the whole thing about like home goods and stuff, how it makes you go to the bathroom.
No.
What?
Yeah,
I thought it smells like cookies or something.
Yeah, there's certain smells that, you can get. Like there's like diffusers, like not just like a 3-stick, like, oh, this is a diffuser. These are like industrial grade that you like hotels and restaurants and stuff will
I've
use.
seen those advertised.
Yeah, and you can get like your own specific fragrance and things like that. I thought you were going to go into smells that bring you like elicit that idea or thought, because there's certain times in my house where I'm walking somewhere and I'll just casually smell like a Black and Mild type smell of like one of those like cigarette things. That pipe smell, I'll get that. So I'm like, oh, granddaddy's near. There's certain perfumes where I'm like, oh, Big Mama's like,
Absolutely.
things like that where it'll just come like out of the blue. Yeah, so that's where I think about when I think of smells.
That's interesting though. I know this becomes like a capitalistic thing, but can you, like, my mom's clothes came to me. My dad sent them, and it's like, I wish someone could
Well, your mom's clothes were sent to you. They didn't come to you.
They didn't just arrive. They were sent to me, but I wish someone could bottle that scent. Like, it's interesting.
That's
I
what
wonder
we were
if
talking
AI
about.
can
You
like,
should. Honestly, what you could do is there's still going to be clothing that you can really smell her.
Yeah.
I would put it for now like in a very tightly sealed plastic bag. We did that for some of Aunt Fran, our dearly departed Aunt Fran, but she was Spike's mom.
Oh.
And when we got him, we took some of her stuff and then sealed it in plastic bags so we could put it in bed with
Spike
him.
could smell.
So like we actually covered his bed with like, she had this jacket that she wore a lot. Like we covered it on that. So he
That
was
is so
sleeping
nice.
to keep that smell as long as we could.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would spend so much money on that one particular
See,
smell.
Erica, where I thought you were going with that was you find like Aunt Fran's jacket and you take it to a place, because I did this with my kids around here in Denver. You can go to like a wick place that makes candles.
Yeah.
And just give it to a professional and be like, can you recreate this
Right.
scent? Almost like you would give to a chef, like, can you make Big Mama's lasagna?
But generally for something like that, I mean, you're really kind of talking about like if there's a certain fragrance that they wear. Like I think it's kind of difficult, as Gwyneth Paltrow would tell you, to replicate a actual human body smell.
Do you know what she's talking
That's-
about, Al? No. Gwyneth Paltrow sells a candle that smells like her vagine.
Okay. Oh, all right. I don't, but what do we have to take her word for it?
We
How
don't
do we
know.
what it
That's why I
smells
don't like the woman.
And she put it out there.
You're very weird with, we don't have time to get into your beef with Gwyneth.
Didn't I send you a reel?
Yes, and
there-
I seen it before, and I was like, she knows.
There was this reel, and it's a black guy, and
I love that guy.
standing up for Gwyneth Paltrow, and it is the funniest thing. I had to send it. Like, as soon as I saw it, I sent it to
Why
a
didn't you
story.
send it to me? I'm the original.
What do you mean?
I've been defending GP since day one.
You don't know her
Day
that
one.
well. Oh boy.
GP's my girl.
Oh my gosh.
GP.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
I've loved her since
Sorry.
Contagion.
Well, I'll send it to you next. I'll send it to you.
Contagion.
Yeah.
Shakespeare in Love. She's a great actress.
Okay, but you just don't like her.
I just kind of got annoyed with her.
She is a
Triggered, yeah.
trigger for Tori.
Yeah.
She really is.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's a little bit.
Okay, well, speaking of triggers, nice transition now. Anthony Mackie has triggered the right wing. He was speaking about his character, Captain America, which is getting ready to be released. And when he was on a panel, he basically said that in his eyes, Captain America isn't just America. He said Captain America stands for a man that keeps his word. Basically, like Captain America is the dad from Good Times, like just a good man. And people got mad that he tried to take the America out of Captain America. So do you think there's anything, Erica, these are things that real people are talking. Reclaim your time
fictional
if you
problems.
need to, but these are things that adults
Wait, like
are-
I can understand because the way in which it was created was very Captain America was against the Nazis. If you know your comic book history, it was like the guy to fight the Nazis, and he was like Mr. America. So
Not Mr., it's Captain.
yes.
Mr. America was his dad.
you gotta
He worked for the phone company.
Captain America, I could understand the history was based in a particular time and space in wartime. Is that what they're upset about, or is that
No,
Okay.
it's just that. First of all, let's be real. A black guy's playing Captain
Yeah.
America, which I'm
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
they had to get a couple Coors Lights down before they even were able to accept that. Like, stay out of the basement. Your dad's working through some Captain America issues. So there's that. And the idea that not only is a black man been given the honor of playing Captain America, but also that he's not completely leaning into the whole America part of it. So, Erica, does this surprise you at all?
Does it surprise me that people are more focused on a fictional character and what's being stripped away or manipulated than they are their neighbors? No.
that's very Captain America, isn't it?
It is.
That is America. This is America. This is America.
If you were to go see a superhero movie, Erica, which one would it be?
A superhero?
Yes. Marvel,
Movie?
DC universe?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't I went to one. I don't know if it was Marvel, DC. This was in 2021. It
a while
was
back.
I know.
yeah. Well, I know because we brought the kids, our Casa kids, but they were really excited. The boys were really excited about this movie coming out, and it had like all of the people in it. But I don't know. I fell asleep
Probably
during the movie. It
Avengers
was
Endgame.
very
Probably
no. It wasn't
Avengers.
Avengers. I think it started with a D.
Oh.
Doom Squad? I don't know.
It was like, yeah, I don't even know. It was long and I
That's
fell asleep.
Eric-
It was cool though, but I can't really tell you exactly.
What or who was in it?
Yeah,
or the
I think
title.
The popcorn was really good though.
Erica speaks to a greater problem that I've noticed the older I get, and whether it's movies like Marvel and things like Superman, you feel like you should be able to keep up with, or even video games. Everything is so immersive now that if you are not in that world, bro,
Yeah, you're out of it.
you're out of it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just pick up a joystick and be like, I'm playing Miss Pac-Man. Shut up. I'm not good, but I at least understand the concept.
Yeah, right.
There is...
Well, it's very niche, isn't it? Everything's very niche.
Everything has almost made it so that if you were not in that world, you were outside of that world. And when I think about superhero movies, as a kid that collected comic books and went to comic book conventions,
Cool.
I tried to watch on a flight because I had crazy sickness leaving Mexico City. So I just put on Ant-Man Quantum Mania just to like focus on something crazy. And I couldn't. It's about quantum physics.
It's confusing.
And different time zones. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine a kid trying to just passively take in anything. But maybe if you look at their makeup Tory, they don't passively take in anything. If they go in, they go all in to whatever world that is.
And that's also part of the whole merchandising on the outside. Like, you go in and you're all in. But it doesn't that count as like to the tribalism and niche audience of what's going on? Like, if you're into Bluey, you're super into that whole world. And I have no idea what any of that is. But I think that just speaks to the nicheness of what things are becoming.
I will say this. It does speak to, as people that talk for a living, how you can unknowingly get into trouble because every community is
It has
so
representation.
loud.
Yeah.
And so you're like, you know what? I don't like the incense that is the stick kind. I like the kind that's more of the one you burn. And there'll be comments. How
Knock
dare
chompa.
you?
Yeah.
My grandmother burned stick incense. And you're like, sir,
I just-
Sorry.
And so it is difficult to even have an opinion on something because every community, whether it's Taylor Swift or Fox News or the DC universe, like if you say anything wrong, I had a friend of mine who was on CNN. I think I told the story before. This is 15 years ago, before everything was really crazy. But she made kind of she's, at that time, 45-year-old woman, made it on CNN. She's a therapist. And she made a comment about Grand Theft Auto that was like harmlessly wrong. Like, she got one detail wrong, and that gamer community proceeded to rip her life apart, Erica, to the point where you could not put her name into Google without it being auto-filled is an expletive that I cannot repeat. And it's weird how it seems like the people that were bullied for loving this thing found each other, but weirdly then turned into those same bullies.
Well, I mean, that's just the nature of power, unfortunately.
yes.
You know, it's always like when people say money doesn't change you, it just makes you more of who you are. Power doesn't change you, it just makes you more of who you are, who you always were. But I think right now it's a fascinating time, and I think if it's used in a way of community, and some communities can be innately toxic. There's always going to be an air of toxicity, and any time that you get together that many people. But for some people, people utilize those communities or subcultures. I mean, I love Bravo. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, love Bravo. Like, that is my DC Marvel.
That is your universe.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, not
Niche,
only
yeah.
do I watch Bravo shows, and I'm a completionist when it comes to Housewives. I've watched every franchise from the first episode to where they are now. I listen to the podcasts. I guest on the podcast. I create Bravo content. I go to BravoCon. I cover BravoCon. You know, like, all of these things, I'm very deeply rooted in that community. Now, I wouldn't have thought about it at the time when I was first getting into it, but then I started realizing, like, I have a lot of content creator friends, and, like, those are like my people. You know, like, I really enjoy them, and I really enjoy being a part of, like, this ecosystem. And I think for a lot of people, that creates family outside of family. I know a lot of content creators who were like, I didn't have any direction. I didn't know, what I was doing at that point. And I just started talking about something that I loved. And then all of a sudden my community found me. And I think that that's so important for people, that you do something because you love it so much that your community finds you.
Yeah, I agree. There's a cross-stitching group called FlossTube, and they're just as big as YouTube. Don't fall asleep, Al. Wake up. But it's very big in the community. But it's just like that. You find your own community.
Well, that's the positive side. Here's the my question to you guys is, does that totally undo what we were taught, and I'm assuming a lot of our listeners were taught as we were growing up, was to be as well-rounded as possible? I don't know if now I wouldn't tell my kids, find a niche and dig in. I think when we were coming up, it's like, go to college, go to a liberal arts college, learn about Russian literature and African-American dance. I took a bowling class in college. Is it better to just be an expert on one thing? Because
Yes.
it seems like that's, talk to us.
Yeah, well, I think, yes, it is always better to have an expertise. I mean, your expertise is what's going to define you in terms of, like, this is something that I've put all of my time, effort, and energy. It's all of the accoutrements, so to speak, that really engage you. Like, a lot of people can publicly speak, but can you publicly speak from an area of expertise in anything? If you can publicly speak from an area of expertise in anything, then you can also filter all of the things that are happening in the world or topics that may come up through your lens and area of expertise. So I think that I'm not really concerned about people who have something that they're super passionate about. Yes, I love Bravo, and I consume it probably more than the average person, definitely more than the average person. But it's by in no means my entire life. It's just something that I also find community in, because a lot of the women, it is broadcasting, highlighting women. A lot of the women on that network, I have a lot in common with. So there are things that I see of myself in them, and that's what that synergy is for me. And I think when you're finding community anywhere, that generally is the genesis of why you're going in that direction.
Finding things that you love to talk about rather than things you hate. Interesting concept. Tori, we are roughly a week out of Snoop performing for Donald Trump, and it appears that the initial backlash that he felt is lingering. He's made a couple of videos kind of saying, I'm good with myself and y'all need to move on. But do you think that this will be a permanent stain and permanently affect the way people look at Snoop Dogg, who had really been adopted as America's uncle.
I kind of do. And can I be honest? I don't really have a strong intellectually stimulating conversation as to why, but some things just stay stank on you. Do you know what I mean? Like some things just like leave a mark and you never forget. Like Howard Dean, remember that guy?
Right.
Like he made one loud noise and like everyone was like, that's crazy.
Right.
And for some reason that just stuck. To me, this
Whether it was just or not, it just stuck.
yeah, like
Yes.
Trump's done 1 million of things or whoever's done 1 million of things, but that thing seems to stink and stick. And I really think this Snoop somehow it got under people's skin because of who they thought he was, who he represented, who he said he wouldn't perform for, and then went ahead and did it without an explanation.
That's
I just-
Erica, you're nodding your head.
Yeah,
that
because
was,
you
No,
had
I
said
I
that.
brought that up.
The
yeah.
transparency, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if there was a reason, I mean, granted, even if he came out and said, hey, you know, when I needed help getting my friend exonerated, but, you know, or pardoned or whatever it was, and he was the only one who helped me, a lot of people still are going to be like, yeah, that's not a good enough reason for me. We still can't stand you. But it would have been a reason.
Yeah, something.
You know, like, I think that with Snoop, it was just a situation where I think a lot of people felt like, I thought you were better than that. And it took something away. And I mean, to me, you're talking about someone who obviously has a lot of, in terms of when I'm talking about Snoop Dogg, he doesn't need the money. You know, he likely doesn't. It's not like he's a rapper who was a rapper and had like all of these hits in the 90s and early 2000s and now
could
we don't
use that
really
check.
know what his situation is. Like he has reinvented himself on such a grand level that one would assume that checks are continuously
Right.
coming in
in a
from
way
where
that
he's
he couldn't
popping up.
stop the checks even if he wanted to.
Exactly. So it seems to me like people wanted answers and he ignored the cries of people who've considered him like their hero or their favorite or, you know, whatever. And then he kind of came back and was like, well, you know, I'm going to do me and, you know, that's cool. But I think that disappointment is so much harder for people to get over
To wash
than
off.
anger.
Yeah.
And I think that he is living in a sea of disappointment.
Oh God.
And I would so much rather someone be angry
It's
at
that
me
thing when your parents tell you they're
than
disappointed.
Totally.
disappointed.
Doesn't it sound like a part of the moon? We landed at the sea of disappointment.
that's I think where we are, and I'm anxious to see as we move through these 4 years, will artists, musicians kind of use Snoop Dogg's popularity at the time as a litmus test for whether they choose to perform, whether they choose to be publicly affiliated with Trump's brand, because at this point, Trump is such a brand that you can no longer, he's made it impossible to be kind of like a tangential participant. You're either in or you're out, and that's really a good way to run an organization.
It's just weird because it feels like it's the first time Snoop has missed the mark on what the pulse has been on.
I think,
Do you know what I'm
honestly,
saying?
Absolutely.
this
Like
is,
even Martha Stewart was a cool move. Like,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
awesome.
But see, I think that also could kind of contribute to the down. I think that lightning doesn't strike twice on something like that. Snoop, from my understanding from watching the Martha Stewart document, approached Martha about doing something together. And that did absolutely launch them both into stratospheres that, like, you know, that was a great move synergy wise, to introduce each other to their respective demographics.
And also kind of reintroduce themselves to the world at that point.
Right.
Into different
and
audiences.
it also put Snoop in a totally different bracket. And perhaps the thought was, in terms of like the management or curation of like what he does next, was that, well, you're here now, and so it doesn't even really matter. Kind of like Trump can do anything and people just kind of like let it wash over them. You're there. And what it's really showing is that as a black man, you will never be there. You can't, I don't know how else to say this, but I know that our parents constantly reminded us that we can't do what they can do. And that was coming from, you know, black family, black household. No matter, I don't care if you're on the same team, you live in the same neighborhood, your parents make the same amount, like all of these qualifiers. If you do something, your consequences, my consequences as a young Black girl or woman, were going to be different than my white counterparts. And I think that ultimately in real time, that's what we're seeing. If there was a white man at the Snoop Dogg level and stratosphere of success and fame and fortune, and he decided to make this move, would he have come under the same scrutiny?
Justin Timberlake, would he have come under the same scrutiny?
No, because it feels like a betrayal.
But
maybe.
also, Justin Timberlake is not Snoop.
Nobody likes Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake's famous.
Yeah, Justin Timberlake's famous, but his cultural relevance in this moment is not the same as Snoop Dogg. And I'm not saying anything disparaging against Justin Timberlake.
No,
I'm just saying, like, Justin Timberlake wasn't asked to cover the Olympics. He wasn't a part of, like, yeah. So I'm talking about cultural relevance in the moment.
Well, that's a caveat that you as a woman and a Jewish woman, you as a Black woman, me as a Black man, there's always this other base that we have to think about. And if you are Kid Rock and you're like, I'm MAGA now, all the way. I'm going to shoot my Bud Light cans and call Kamala Harris this, but I'm in MAGA, and he is encapsulated and protected within that bubble. They will buy tickets. They will buy merch. They will support him in whatever events they take him to. If Erica makes a decision with her company, makes a decision about where to allocate funds or who to hire and who not to hire, if I decide to do a joke or not do a joke or do a sitcom that may be right-leaning, you may do a sitcom that may be right-leaning. You have two masters to kind of appease.
Yeah.
One is your house, your career. This is a job. I need a job. But also, how do I make that okay with the people that look like me, the people that have supported me, the people that change my diapers, and the people that buy my tickets now? And I think, as I can only speak for myself, as a performer, there's always these two masters that I'm trying to.
Can we call them something else? I feel odd having to appease a master.
Oh,
I think my ancestors fought very hard for me not to have
Erica,
to say
there's
that.
a whole world in which that also exists. It's
Oh,
a
boy.
little freaky.
Lord.
Fetish.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah, exactly.
there we go.
I think what you're speaking to, especially from our lens, and I've said this before, my problem with a lot of people who take the contrarian view, who look like me, for the sake and the reward of taking the contrarian view, I do have a problem with. And the reason why is because I know what those conversations look and sound like. I know the reasons why you're specifically being asked to take these stances and say it in front of these groups of people. So now I'm asking myself, well, what was the number? Like, I'm going to do things that people aren't going to agree with. I'm going to say things that people aren't going to agree with. We've all done it. We were on live television for 7 years. My question to myself is always, am I doing something intentionally to set back or harm myself and people who identify with me? Am I doing something to harm people who, are going to be innocently or negatively impacted regardless of what they, look like or who they are? Those are the checks and balances that I have. Mm-hmm. Now, could any move be called on the carpet or table? Of course. But it's also not my business what other people think of me. Right. It wasn't my business when people saw me every day on television. I do the best I can with what I can and who I am. And I sleep well at night. So if that's to say, if Snoop is really sleeping well at night based on this, I'm going to tell you, though, I'm not sure if he is because of the response.
Do you think like people like Dre and the people like really care about him have said something?
No, because they're in the 1% too.
Yeah, but Dre wouldn't perform for freaking Trump. I thought that about Snoop though.
I don't think Dre would have.
I'm just saying. I wonder if anyone's been like, "Yo, that was such a bad call."
Also, Dre isn't in the public light like Snoop is.
Yeah.
And Snoop has a lot of supporters that are Trump supporters. I mean, Snoop is America's in a way that maybe a handful of people are. I'm thinking maybe like The Rock.
Michael
Like,
Jordan.
Right. Like people that it's impossible to transcend race, but somebody that people that you vehemently disagree with, we can agree we like this person.
Yeah, right.
And I think for Snoop, that must be very intoxicating to be like, I am above everything to the point where even if I perform for this person who I probably have a lot of disagreements with, I'm so beloved, I'm Snoop. And when he didn't feel that,
Yeah, he was wrong on this one.
that nakedness of just,
Yeah.
you guys can't take shots at the king. I've been famous in 1993.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I definitely am curious to see just where this goes, and to use your words to take us home, how long this stank will last.
Can he shake the stank?
Well, I'm interested to hear what y'all, our night owls, have to say about that.
Hoot, hoot.
And, is there a certain amount of time when the public's like, you've served your time, you're getting out of public jail? Both could be true. We've seen people kind of, do that, but I don't know.
This one seems different.
This seems like a all day stank when you're musty and like you're on a bus and it's like, well, we're not stopping for another 2 hours and you just got to keep your armpits down.
Yeah.
But then that increases the
because
sweat.
it's trapped.
Yeah. Now it just really stinks. So now you cannot move because you committed to the pit lock.
And you have olives for
Not the
lunch.
pit lock.
Yeah. Because like if you're like this, first of all, there's
bacteria.
If you stunk in school, you were just like, it's fourth period. If any cute girl
man.
smell me,
Oh,
like when
my
you walk
gosh.
past and you get that must,
And you have to-
so then you're like, you got to be like this the whole day. But if you have to lift your arm up and everybody's like, Al stinks, it's over. The whole
Yeah.
year is over.
And then you'll be stinky
I-
for that day over.
Yeah.
That happened to me in 4th grade, and let me tell you, I had deodorant in my backpack from that day forward.
That's right.
It's
I
traumatizing.
forgot to put on my deodorant, and I will never ever
it down.
forget.
How long
Paul
does it
Velez.
Yeah. Is that who called you out?
See?
Yep.
You remember it like it was yesterday.
It's because
Fucking
it's that
Paul.
traumatizing.
He told me I smelled like onion. And he was not incorrect.
yes.
There was truth to that.
And
Oh, man.
I just wanted to
Onions.
crawl up in a ball and die
Totally.
because I knew it. I could smell myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
early.
And the thing
Garlic.
about it too is like you also have to like throw away those clothes. You can't burn them because that would be a toxic,
Yeah.
Waste.
yeah, it would be
a
a biohazard
biohazard.
situation. But you do have to because that
Onion
that is
smell.
something that that stank cannot be shooketh.
It can't. And
ripe.
Erica, just to show you are not alone in this. You know, like when you're a little kid, you don't really have a pathology for like why you think certain things. But I ran out of deodorant, and I was scared to tell my dad. I don't know. He wouldn't have cared. He'd be like, okay, we'll get you. But in my head, I was like, he's
Can't
gonna
tell
be mad.
Dad.
So I was like, I took a really good shower, and I was like, I'm gonna go to school. Like this is back, like you really didn't know why you need deodorant. And like on the bus to school, I was like, "Oh, this is
is
real
a bad
I was
decision.
already
Oh my
funky."
gosh.
And so by the time we got home, it's me and my dad and my sister, and we're eating just silently in the kitchen. And my sister goes, "Dad, Al stunk at school today," and I burst into tears because I had been living with this trauma
The shame.
of just thinking all day. And I don't know why she decided to confess to my dad for me, but he was like, "Do you need deodorant?" And I was like, "Yes."
Dad, Al stunk.
Yeah.
Yo, let me just tell you this PSA, and I know we gotta go.
My cheeks.
So my husband decided about probably 8 months ago that he was gonna switch to natural deodorant. Okay.
God.
And I was trying to support this decision, but I have to be honest, and I can now identify other people who have made this commitment. There is a certain type of smell that emits from natural deodorant.
It's not good.
I don't know if it's a particular brand of natural. I'm not trying to disparage all natural deodorants, but there is this earthy, distinct smell when people are using it. So I kept telling him that his smell has never bothered me before, but it wasn't like a stink necessarily, but it is a smell. And so I kept telling him that there's something happening, because even when he was smelly, it didn't offend me. This was offensive. So I'm like, it's deodorant. And so I'm listening to this podcast, and it's like two bros talking Bravo, right? And I think they're hilarious. They call themselves the Bra Bros. And so it's like these like total bros, and they're like, man, I had to throw away my natural deodorant because I was smelling all the time. And Anthony was standing there in the kitchen with me, and I was like, I told you. I'm like, you thought that I was just like nitpicking you. I am not nitpicking you. Also, you represent me, and I cannot have you walking around in the streets smelling like nature.
Funkmaster Flex can't have it. Yeah,
Musty.
It's I get it, and you had the same moment my sister did when you just break down.
Yes.
And Winnie is here, and
Winnie's
Winnie's
letting
like,
us
look,
know.
y'all don't have to go,
Look
but y'all
at
have to
this.
get out of here.
Every time it's time to go, Winnie
She
just
really
comes
does.
up here.
So with that said, for Erica Cobb, Tori Shulman, Winnie, myself, Al Jackson, thank you guys for tuning in. Really, comes to the end of the show. Thank you, Night Owls. Thank you, Night Owls.
Bye.
See y'all.
That is so hysterical.
It's like
Oh my
true.
gosh,
It's
that's so
bizarre.
cute.